She had accepted the arrangement on the condition that she would always be surrounded by comfort and be able to do whatever she wished, provided, of course, that she would accept the role of Salvius's wife whenever he wished to display her as a precious trophy of his seductive ability. Thus, taking advantage of the favorable situation her sister Claudia held as the consort of the procurator of Judea, it was not difficult for Fulvia to accept a transfer to Palestine and move closer to the limelight of Roman power. She insinuated herself among guests and courtiers, winning over the most important, creating situations of seduction, without regard for her own sister's dignity, until she reached the bed of her brother-in-law, who was swayed by the diatribes of the experienced woman accustomed to the laxity of customs, so different from her sister. Pilate was enchanted by his sister-in-law, and, despite knowing of her union with Salvius and the daughter they produced, he established an intense physical relationship with the exuberant Fulvia, who became one of his favorite lovers, which filled her with joyful pride. The governor's subordinates and accomplices knew of all these involvements and treated her with a certain respect, considering her a dangerous woman, full of whims and capable of interfering to help or harm anyone. More than respect, they treated her with the fear typical of the weak who bow to avoid being attacked. Therefore, Fulvia felt entitled to wield some power in Pilate's shadow, whom she always knew how to buy with her physical favors and affection when he was irritated by her arrogant way of interfering in his decisions. In fact, Pilate suffered greatly when he had to make these decisions. Despite holding the highest position for the entire region, his lukewarm personality found it difficult to resolve important issues involving the interests of people he considered his allies or accomplices. To deal with the unprotected and voiceless populace in society, he was harsh and inflexible, adhering to the dictates of Roman codes or local customs. However, all it took was for a dispute to arise between two of his allies and the spurious proceedings for Pilate to be at a loss for a decision, for he wished to contradict neither. He was aware of his connection to both and of his moral and material dependence on the entire web they also helped maintain. To contradict one of them would be to harm his own interests and risk tearing the delicate fabric of his local alliances. Therefore, he always sought to compensate for the loss of one privilege by granting another to please the injured party, demonstrating his weakness before all those he led. He rarely made a harsh decision and stuck to it to the end, no matter the cost, as long as it involved important people. Everyone who knew him was aware of this peculiarity, a result of the problems arising from complicity in error.